Frank Warren's face says it all, doesn't it? His face says it all. Shout out to Rob Tebber, as always. He is the best in the business right now. Let's not get it confused. Let's not get it twisted. Rob Tebber of Boxing Social is the best boxing interviewer around right now, in my humble opinion. And in this latest interview that he did with Frank Warren, he asked the questions that a lot of people wanted answering. He asked Frank Warren about the ticket sales for Wilder versus Fury. He asked Frank Warren about the StubHub situation. He asked Frank Warren about Nathan Gorman versus Daniel Dubois. And all of this despite the fact that Frank Warren was spitting fire, as he often does in these interviews when he's asked even remotely probing questions. That face, that face comes upon him and he starts doing that shoulder shrug and that head nod. You know, the typical Frank Warren idiosyncrasies when he's being asked an uncomfortable question. And this angry face descends upon him and he starts spitting venom, you know. And Rob does a very good job of staying calm and diffusing Frank Warren when need be, because it's actually a skill interviewing. It's a definite skill. And if you have a hostile interviewee in front of you, there's a skill to asking them probing questions in a light-hearted fashion. So, well, when you ask them probing questions in a light-hearted fashion, you don't want to come across as condescending. You don't want to come across as mocking. You want to come across as effervescent and honest and harmless and what have you. If you want to get the necessary information and don't want the interview to be cut short. Or, God forbid, banned from Queensbury events, banned from interviewing Frank Warren again. The one thing which people pointed out that Rob didn't ask Frank Warren, and I forgot about it actually during the interview, was the bankruptcy situation, which has been reported in the mainstream media. But then again, perhaps Frank Warren told him not to ask him the question beforehand. I don't know. Sometimes interviewees will tell you prior to an interview, we ain't talking about this. And you have to respect it, because a lot of the time if you give them your word and then you go back on it during the interview, they're going to cut the interview short. You won't be able to get an interview again, so on and so forth. So, and it's not, I don't think it's fair to expect interviewers to cross that line, to try trickery in order to get information or try and get a reaction, because again, they're going to end up being banned from events and so on and so forth. So I personally think Rob Tebber did a good job. As far as Frank Warren's answers, he didn't disappoint, depending on how you look at it. He disappointed in terms of providing satisfactory answers, but he didn't, he disappointed in terms of providing satisfactory answers, but he didn't disappoint in terms of providing entertainment. That's what you guys tune in to Frank Warren interviews for anyway, right? That's why I tune in. I don't tune in to hear anything honest or candid from Frank Warren. I tune in to watch him spit venom and get fiery. That's why I tune in. It's entertaining. I like Frank Warren interviews just like I like Eddie Hearn interviews, but for different reasons. With Eddie Hearn, it's the banter and genuinely interesting news from time to time, genuinely interesting behind the scenes insights from time to time. But with Frank Warren, it's the pure rage, the pure old school North London, North/East London. He's actually from North London. Is he from Hoxton, I think, Frank Warren? Or was he born in Islington? I can't remember now, but he's from the North London/East London area. That's where he grew up. And yeah, the old school London rage. That's what we tune in for. That's what we want to see. Another disappointment was the answer that he gave to the question of Nathan Gorman versus Daniel Dubois. He shut it down straight away. He got angry with the British Border Control ordering the fight as an eliminator for the British title. He said the British Border Boxing Control should have got on the phone to him and asked his permission to order the fight. I mean, people, I'll leave it to you to decide what you think of that. This man thinks the British Border Boxing Control are supposed to call him up and ask his permission to put his fighters in eliminators. I mean, I didn't think it worked that way. My understanding of it is the British Border Boxing Control have their belt and they order an eliminator for their belt, and it's a take it or leave it situation. If your fighter don't want to take it, that's fine, don't take it. But they're not in a position where they have to call you up before they order eliminators. It's just a take it or leave it situation. Once they've ordered the eliminator, then they call you up. You know, and I can only imagine that Frank Warren is angry because he appears angry when asked the question. I can only imagine he's angry because he feels a bit shown up, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of people wanted to see Gorman Dubois sooner rather than later. Nathan Gorman even came out and said he'll do it now. He's ready for it now. But Frank Warren came out angrily and said, I want to put this fight on in a big arena or in a football stadium or something like that. So, boy, we'll see if that happens. I personally find that disappointing that he wants to milk the rivalry that much and push it, you know, kick the can so far down the road. Because, I mean, we'll see how it turns out, but in my experience, the best fights are usually between two young guys at early stages of their career who have a lot to prove. As I've said many times before, ad nauseum, like with Anthony Joshua, Dylan White, when I was telling you guys that was going to be a great fight for the longest and people were ridiculing me and saying White will get blasted, blah, blah, blah. I understood the scenario. You got two young guys like that with chips on their shoulders and they got it all to prove and they haven't really honed their techniques yet. That's when you get the best fights. Usually. When they're years and years down the line and they're both seasoned, you often get a cagey affair, you know? So that's what he said about that. Also, when it came to answering the question of StubHub, again, the shoulder twitch and the head twitch came into effect. He didn't answer. All he said is, I think Rob said to him, do you have any comment on the fact that tickets have been sold on the secondary market for Wilder Fury? Did you have anything to do with that? And he was like, nope. Just a one-word answer. It looked very uncomfortable. And again, to me, and this is just my interpretation of it, giving a one-word answer to a question like that, in my opinion, is an indication that he knows he's been caught out. Yeah, because this is a man who's been spewing so much vitriol in the direction of Eddie Hearn for associating with StubHub and doing business with StubHub for a very long time now, in many, many interviews. And yet when he's caught out in the same situation with StubHub, you know, doing business, in co-promoting an event where tickets are being sold on StubHub and other secondary ticket websites, he's got nothing to say for himself. If it was a genuine oversight or, you know, there was some kind of genuine, understandable reason for being, for apparently being a hypocrite like this, he had every opportunity to explain it to us. But he didn't. He just gave a one-word answer and that was it. Make of that what you will. Obviously, he's spewing vitriol about White Chisora, which I mentioned elsewhere. Talks about Saunders, Dubois, Gorman. Again, if you haven't seen this interview, I highly recommend it. Boxing Social's where it's at. Rob Tebbutt, definitely the man. Go watch his latest interview with Frank Warren. Let me know what you think. All right? I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.